I'm going to read The Prince and the Pauper. Today I'll read two chapters. Here you go. The River Pageant and The Prince in Toilet. This must be interesting. The story about Tom, who became the Prince Edward, and then he got lots of experience in the palace with the servants and King Henry VIII. Henry VIII is famous, was a famous king, but and historically and here the Edward and Henry VIII, they are all families in the Wales. So then we call and United Kingdom, which consists of Wales, England, Scotland, North Ireland. So and then this story is one of view of history of United Kingdom. Okay, I'll read it. The river pageant at 9 in the evening. The whole vast river front of the palace was blazing with light. The river itself, as far as the eye could reach its shores, was so thickly covered with its waterman's board and with its pleasures of barges, all permeated with its colored lanterns and gently agitated by the waves. The sun were growing, and the limitless garden of flowers stirred to soft motions by summer winds. The grand terrace of stone steps leading down to the water stretches down to mask the army or German principality. But was a picture to see with these lines of lawyers of grenadiers in polished armor, and a stripped for the brilliantly costume and servitors, the flitting up and down, to and fro, in a hurry of the preparations. Presently the cabman was given an invitation to all living creatures that vanished from the steps. Now the air was heavy with a hush of suspense and expectancy. As far as one's visions could carry, you might see the myriad of people, and the boats rise up and shade their eyes from the glare of lanterns, torches, and gaze toward the palace. About 40-50 state barges drew up to the steps, and they were richly gilded. And their lofty bows and the stern dual elevators carved. Some of them were decorated with banners and streamers, some with cloths of gold and others embroidered with coats of arms, other with a silken spread that had numerous little silver bells fastened to them, which shook out these tiny shores of joyous music too, and of the breeze buttered and out of yet higher pretensions, since they long nursed in the prince's immediate service. And outside the picturesquely fenced with the shirts gorgeously emblazoned with the amorous bearings. Each state barge was towed by a tenders. Beside the roars, these tenders carried each number of men at arms in glossy helmet and breastplate, and a company of musicians. The advance guard of the expected processions now appeared in the great gateways, the troop of the halberdiers. They were dressed in striped hose of the black and tawny leather caps, graced at the side with the silver host, and different moray and blue clothes embroidered on the front and back with the 3 feathers and prince, a blazon, governing door, there's the halberd and stave, and were covered with this crimson velvet, fastened with its gilt nails and ornamented with its gold tassel. Falling off on the right and left, they formed 2 long lines, extending from the gateways of the palace to the water's edge. A thick, raided cloth and carpet was then unfolded and laid down between them, by attended in the gold and crimson. The rest of the queens the porch of the trumpets sounded from within, loudly the full rolls from the musicians on the water, and 2 ushers with white ones, and marched with the floor and stately face from the foothold. They were followed by an officer bearing the civic mass. After whom came others carrying the city's word, and several sergeants of the city guard in the full accoutrements and with his badges on their sleeves, and on their gutters the king at arms and his tabard then several knights of the best, each with a sword laced. On streets then there's a Christ, the judges. The lords of the scarlet and the cliff, and then the lowest high chancellors of England, and the lord of the scarlets often before, and then personally this to this matter. There are the deputations of all the men in their scarlet cloaks, and then the heads of different civic companies in their robes of state. Now, and it came to us, French gentlemen in splendid habiliment, consisting of the purple of white damask, followed with his gold, short mountains of crimson velvet lined with his deposits of it. And coronations covered the house. The horses took their way down the steps stables of the suite of the French ambassador, and the war followed by 12 cavaliers of the suite of the Spanish ambassadors, clothed in black bullets. Unrelieved by any ornaments, following these came several great English nobles with their attendants. There was a burst of trumpet winnings, and the prince's uncle, the future's great and Duke of Somerset, emerged from the gateways and arrayed in the double black clothes of gold, and a cloak of crimson satin, forward with gold, and banded with nets of silver. He turned off his plumed cap, and bent his body in a low reverence, began to step backward, bowing at each step, prolonged the trumpet blast followed, and as a proclamation, waved for the high and might the Lord Edward, Prince of the Wales. I wrote on the palace walls a long line lighted tongues of the flame dipped forth with a thunder crash. The master world on the river burst into mighty roar. Welcomes then from Canty, the cause and heroes of it all. Stepped into view, and slightly bowed his princely hat. He was magnificently habited in a doublet of the white satins, with a pointed piece of the purple cloth of tissue, powdered with diamonds. And with amidst all this he wore a mantle of white cloth of gold, bounced with the triple palace crest, now with blue satin, set with pearls and precious stones, and fastened with a clasp of the brilliant. About his neck hung the order of the garter, and several princes pouring orders, and wherever lights fell upon him, George responded with his blinding. Fresh of Tom's Canty spoon in a hovels of bread in the gutters of London, familiar with blacks, nerve, and miserist, and what a spectacle it is. A prince in Taurus. We left John Canty dragging the Lord Prince into awful horror. With a noise and delight mob at his heels, there was about one person in it who offered a pleading word for the captive, and he was not pitied. And he was hardly even heard, so great was the tumult. The prince continued his struggle for freedom, and to rage against the treatment he was suffering until John Canty lost what little patience was left in him, raised his oaken cudgel. In a sudden fury of the prince had the single first, for the light sprang to side the man's arm, and the blows of descent upon his own wrist. The Canty roared out, "Thou matter dearest thou," and then have the word, and then his cudgels crashed down upon the matter's head. There was a groan, a dim palm sank to the ground among the feet of the crowd, and at this moment it lay there in the dark lawn, the mob pressed on the German, nothing disturbed by this episode. Presently the prince found himself in John Canty's abode, when the door closed against the outsiders, and by the vague light of the tallest candle, it was thrust into bottles. He made out the mains and features of the loaves and dance, and also the occupants of it, two portieres and a middle-aged woman covered here against the wall in the corner, with the aspect of the animal statues and hashes, bespecking and brightening announced, and from another corner of the store, and a withered hag and with streaming grey hair and malignant eyes, John Canty said to this one, "Harry, there's fine, numerous tears, more than still don't enjoy the damson. Let the And we have just the wit sentence first Latin. Now say this forest again the thoughts were not forward. Then the names would father, and they inserted the word amounted to little Princess cheeked once more. He left her stare and an indignant gaze, and the man's voice said, "This puts the ill bring, such as though and to command me to speak. I tell, you know that I told thee, the first time Edward, Prince of the Wild, and Tom other." The stunning surprise of this replied snare the hex pitched to the floor where she stood and almost took her breath, and she stared at the prince in stupid amazement, which so amazed her. We couldn't understand that burst into a roar of laughter, but the effect of the tongue Canty's mothers and sisters was different. They were gradually enjoyed and gave way at once, and distressed a different sort. They ran forward with awe and dismay in their faces, exclaiming, "Poor Tom, poor lad!" The mother fell on her knees before the prince, put her hands upon his shoulders, and gazed yawning into his face through her rolling tears. Then she said, "Oh, my poor boy, the bush-leading house wrote its awful work at last, and Tom, the waited away. Well then, though, quit it. And when I saw one this against it, just broke the mother's heart." The prince looked into her face and said gently, "The third well, has not lost its wits, and good one. And control thee, and led me to the palace where he is, and straightway the king's my father, as restores to him to the king, the father? Oh, my child! Say these words, and be frightened with death for thee, and lose all that's been near to thee, and the trick of this gruesome dream, call back the father's memory. Look upon me. And then I leave mother, for thee, loves thee." The prince shook his head and reluctantly said, "God knows I am love and to greet my dear heart. The truth have I never looked upon thee face before." The woman sang, backward sitting in postures on the floor, and covering eyes with her hands, they made heartbroken sobs and wailings. "Where should go?" shouted Canty. "What damned? What bad? My restaurants." "Oh, yeah," straining the prince's presence from looking this. It for scan and do him reverence. It followed is with another false laugh. The girls began to flee to for their father and the non-sad. The girl would let him to bed, and the father's left him sleep will hail his manners and pretty. Before that, said that he is more learned than is one. Tomorrow it will be himself again, and will beg with diligence, and come not empty home again. This Marcus over and thought to joviality, and then brought his mind to business. He turned angry stuff on the prince and said, "The most must we pay a twopenny him, and then so long as he sold and twopennies, the more this must for half year's length out of this we go and shout. What those gathered with the lady begging the princess and me not with this old it matters that I tell thee again, I am the king's son." The sounding grown arms upon the prince's shoulders, the from Canty broke and found sent him staggering into his good wife's Canty arms, and clasped him to her breast, and shudders him from the floating lane of the princess raptures by interposing. Oh, Mr. Persons, the frightened girls retreat to their corners, but the grandmother stepped eagerly forward and seized her son. The princess sprang away to phone, but Candace exclaimed, "There will not suffer for me, and madam, let these swine do their will upon me alone." The speech infuriated the swine to such a degree, and set about in their work, and without waste of time between them they stood the bowl light soundly, and then gave the girls and their mothers the beatings for showing sympathy for the victim. "Now for the Canties, be glad, all are you. The entertainment has tired me." The light was put out, and the families retired, and as soon as the snoring at the head of the house and his mother showed that They also leave the young girl's club that where the friends live, and carry him tenderly from the court with a straw and bag, and then their mothers cried to him and also stroked his hair and cried over him, and the fifth brings a broken word of comfort, compassion, and she has saved us, model over him to eat also. But the boy's pain has swept away all appetite, at least for the black and treacherous crust. He was touched by her brave and costly defense on him, and by her commiseration. I thanked her in very noble and friendless word, and then begged her to go to her sleep and tried to forget her sorrows. And here, King's I suppose to not let her always kindness of devotion go unnoticed. On this return to, as Magnus broke her heart anew, and she strained him to her breast again and again, and I went back and drowned in tears into her head. Robert. As I lay thinking and mourning, and the written began to cleave interest of mine that there was an undefined something about this boy was lacking in Tom Canty, Matt saying she could not describe it, and she could not tell just what it was, and yet her sharp